Hello and welcome back to the Disney Lorcana Challenge from the lovely city of Bologna in Italy. My name's Ross and I'm here with Joe. Let's face it, you probably deserved it. Curly, who just played a very fun game. So, talk to me about Super Goof.
Super Goof. Not really familiar with that card. What does it do?
Well, apparently it beats you on stream, Joe. That is mostly what it does.
I was feeling so confident right there. I thought I'd finally stabilized a bit, but no.
You were, I mean, I'll give you your due there, mate. You were coming back beautifully in that game. It was a really fun game. I loved watching it. You got the early Inkcaster. Your opponent, Erica, she had no answer to the Inkcaster. So your deck actually started working.
I know, could you believe it? It actually worked.
Oh, you got the Gaston down. You actually used Cheshire Cat more than once. You had the Milo Fatch coming in, doing its thing. Reminded everyone, including myself, someone I'd not really thought about for a while, but the Let It Go, putting it in the ink, shifted will get you 2 ink.
Yeah, it was quite nice.
And your deck seemed to be working, and then Erica's like, Super Goof.
Super Goof. Yeah, and I had the Under the Sea, which I could have used on the Flynn Rider to deny 1 lore, but I was like, 1 lore doesn't matter. It's not going to be able to get 2 lore out of nowhere, but Super Goof had other ideas. I feel like you willed that one into existence.
Well, no, I was rooting for you because I let the side down yesterday, of course, in my match against Sylvia. Ironically, I used Super Goof myself. It just didn't do enough. So I kind of needed you to even the score because even if we get time now for Baker to play against Julia, and even if Baker pulls off a convincing win, we still lose as a team, and it's our fault.
Okay, well, we did lose 2-0 overall, didn't we, to the Italians so far? I lost to Tim as well. So
You're having a shocker on stream.
I've not done well. I've not done well. But I've had a lot of fun in all the games. They've been really spicy games.
Is there an argument, I'm just putting this out there, don't get mad at me, all right? Is there an argument that 36 uninkables is too many, even with hidden Inkcaster?
No. I don't think so. I think 36 is fine. I would play more, but cards like Flaversham and Popsicle are just too good not to play. I would be tempted to play more. You saw my mulligan. I just kept the 2 inkable cards and got rid of the rest. I
did see that. I did spot that. That was not lost on me. Okay, here's a question. What if you play against somebody who plays item removal?
Well, the big problem, and I found this out at a set championships I played at recently with this deck, is I played against Zoe, who we actually saw on the stream in Bochum. I think you cast one of her games. She was playing Amber Steel Songs. And she was playing Amber Steel Songs again. She goes Queen on 1, shifts Queen on 2, and then sings Bare Necessities to discard my hidden Inkcaster from my hand. I just had a hand of uninkables. A turn later, I was at 3 ink. I just go, pass. Nothing done. I had just a hand of uninkables.
I mean, yeah. I get nervous playing Sapphire decks because you have to survive a few turns and then you get rolling. I think that might be a step too far for me. I genuinely do. I applaud you for trying something very, very different. I love the idea of the deck. And look, I've started throwing my deck ideas at you as we're wandering around after the event. So you hear where my thoughts are at. They're not necessarily much better.
They're mainly looking towards Simba or Pinocchio. Ross's deck ideas, I've got this deck idea. I'm going to play Pinocchio, or I'm going to play Simba.
Yeah, they're great cards. I don't know what we're talking about. They're 2 cost and they quest for free. But they never work. Every game I'm like, yay. I got double Simba down yesterday. And Sylvia was just like, get rid of that one, get rid of that one. I played free Simba and quested with 0 of them. Yeah. And then lost by like 6 lore. So, yeah.
The most serious match you and I have ever played against each other was a Stitch set championship.
It was.
And I was coming off the back of a pretty good tournament performance, feeling very confident. I was literally just off the plane.
We literally just met. You got top 4 at a tournament in Poland, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, right, so we've got this Lorcana villain dude who I've heard of him. He's pretty good. Oh, and some dude who's just got top 4 at a tournament in Poland. So I played you round 1, obviously. Baker round 3. I got paired up round 2. That literally the hardest possible route through that tournament. Still got my Stitch. Pretty proud of myself. But yeah, I did grief you a little bit hard on that with Maleficent and Befuddle.
Yeah, it wasn't just Maleficent Befuddle. It was Maleficent on 1 and then turned to another Maleficent and a Befuddle.
Yeah, it was a pretty good opening.
Really good opening.
I'll be honest with you.
And you were showing me your Inkwell, let's not forget.
Yeah, you told that story on stream yesterday. Yeah, there was 6. There were 3. Was it Prince? No, the Prince. There was 3 The Prince and 3 Hercules. Yeah. And, 6 turns in, my ink was literally Prince, 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 Bodyguard, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. I thought that was really interesting. And I thought, here's a nice guy guy. We're having a friendly game of Lorcana. We're literally inside the Disney store. There's Disney music playing. I think this is, even though it's a set championship, it doesn't matter. We're quite relaxed. I think you'll find this funny, and you're like, oh, you're not allowed to do that.
I mean, to be fair, I was like, not going to be that guy going, judge my opponent's cheating. I was just like, bit of a warning, probably shouldn't do that again.
Oh, I think you and I remember this in very different ways, my friend. But I feel like now we're kind of on this casting team together. The problems of our past are left in the past.
Well, maybe not.
I mean, you brought it up both days on stream this weekend.
I'm still salty. I can't believe that you got me with the befuddle on turn 2 Maleficent. I was so confident. And I got paired down, didn't get to play against Baker, and I never got to win the first ever set championships.
Yeah, but I did
thanks to your befuddles.
Yeah, but I did get paired against Baker, and I didn't get to win the first ever set championships. And now we have to hear it from Baker every time we see him. Come down the hotel in the morning, I'm like, morning, Baker. And he's like, won the first ever set championships.
I won the second. Well, the first Ursula won.
I do feel like if there's another one of these that we're all invited to for Shimmering Skies, I kind of have to win it.
A lot of pressure. We are going to take a quick look at the updated bracket in a moment. The players are in this part of the building, and they are seated and ready. I'm seeing some shuffling going on, so pretty excited to see what decks have made it through into the top 4. It is the top 4 now, right?
It is the top 4 now. This is my last game of the day. We've got Victor with your Sapphire Steel against Pierre with your Amber Steel. And then we've got Ella, with that, his name, I'm really sorry, I'm pronouncing that name badly and I know it, with Sapphire Ruby. And here's the thing, that's the Queen deck. So far, we don't have any Emerald Steel, and we don't have any Ruby Amethyst. Now, there is one still to be confirmed. That could change, but the 2 best decks are not in top 4 right now, and I'm sorry, but Ella's deck there, I love that deck so much. I want to see the Queen winning.
It is so much fun. It's such an impressive deck. Also a friend of Theatime, who we saw win the Bochum Challenge, so that is a very strong prep group. What a deck that is with the Queen. If you haven't seen it yet already, you are not going to want to miss that one. But because we've got the first semi-final ready, we are going to be watching Victor versus Pierre. I believe the second semi-final is still not quite ready to go, as there's another match ongoing.
Can you imagine going to their locals and being like, you sit down, you're like, wait, that's the Bochum Disney Lorcana Challenge champion, and that's the Bologna Disney Lorcana. Like, how are you supposed to play at that locals with 2 of the 3 challenge champions? I mean, that does not seem fair.
No, that seems like a very, very stacked local scene, that's for sure.
Imagine Frank Carsten walks up and then it's just like everyone else just leaves the building. There is no point. You can't win.
No, absolutely. Players are now getting ready to put their headphones on. They're having a nice little chat. I can see one of them's got one of the T-shirts available on the prize wall. Let's not forget, there's lots of other Lorcana going on in the building. It's not just the semi-finals. There's also a bunch of side events taking place where you can do all sorts of fun things like pack battles, earn yourself some prize tickets, and that is going to be pack. Did somebody say pack?
I heard packs coming out.
Yeah, packs
so, you know, figure we might just open a nice little pack here. Our poor director has been getting it from me all weekend, like an opens packs now. When do I get to open packs? I might need to stop asking in a minute for fear of not being invited back. That's my boy Prince Eric. Made me look very good in the guest of flavor text yesterday. We got another Prince Eric heavy pack.
One more Prince Eric.
We got Jasmine. We've got the Super Rare Minnie Mouse and Benja coming out to say hello. Since Bochum, have you got any better at opening the packs?
I have. Look at me go.
Nice, proud of you, mate.
Megara, Farley, Daisy Duck, Tong, Magic Broom, the Lively Sweeper.
Nice.
Lively Broom, the Aerial Cleaner. Okay, can we get 3 Magic Brooms in a row? Never done before. Aladdin.
Yeah, that's a good card, that Aladdin.
Hercules. Scuttle, which is in the top 4.
I know you love some Scuttle.
Ruby Sapphire deck. Never underestimate the... Wait, one sec. Let's just pretend this card isn't in there. I'm just going to... We never saw that. We never saw the Super Goof. Minnie Mouse and the Plank. Super Goof, of course, that card which just put me down in the most dominant of fashions.
Super Goof made you look like a super goof. Had to do it. There's one more for the pun. If anyone's counting out there, there is one more out there. Oh, we've got Seldom, All They Seem, we've got First Aid, we've got Farzo, we've got Yao, Ursula's Trickery, Felix is here. Oh, I love the art on this Olaf with all of the carrots. Oh, we've got a super rare Aurora, super rare Aerial Sonic Warrior, and a rare Elsa Storm
really nice
Chaser.
art.
Get to exert it to give a chosen character, challenge +2, and rush for the turn.
I've got Diablo, Ana. Look out for a shift option with Ana in Amethyst. 7-cost Floodborn. Could be a nice Sapphire Amethyst deck brewing. I've got a Pluto, a Hercules, Poor Unfortunate Souls, Triton's Decree, Flotsam and Jetsam, Megara, Mulan, Rapunzel.
Oh.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Don't talk about it, mate. Don't talk about it.
Ana. Two Anas in one pack?
I like that Ana, so that's the one.
I like it too, hero.
If you have a hero in play, you get +1, but there's some other hero cards I really like and some Queen.
Like Super Goof.
And we got things like the Hans. If you've got a Princess or Queen in play, when you play it, you gain a lore, not unlike our friend the Goat. And I'm just saying, there is a deck in there somewhere. I am sure of it.
I agree.
We got ourselves Arales Legacies Cannon. Oh, that's a card we like very much indeed. And a Megara as well.
Yeah, in this show match, when the Flynn Rider came down on turn 2, I was panicking because I just inked Milo Thatch and played Popsicle. And I was not convinced I was going to be able to stop that Flynn Rider anytime soon, but I got very lucky to draw into Morph.
Oh, no, I noticed that.
I've got, is it Jacques or is it Gus? It's Jacques, which we saw at the first round, didn't we?
Yeah, that's a good card. Gives the character Reckless.
Hogsworth, Li Shang, Magic Broom, Triton's Decree, Lost in the Woods, Nessus, Iduna, Hercules. I got another one before the foil. I got the Elsa Storm Chaser.
We like the Elsa Storm Chaser.
After Elsa dispersed Ursula's Storm, Ana was nowhere to be found. Argus as well.
See, I like that. I like the Arges. I think I heard one last pack in my ear.
I think maybe one last pack.
I think I heard one last pack. Sometimes it's a bit hard to hear. There's a lot of noise in the room. I think we heard one last pack. We will be incredibly quick. Oh, we could do the duo pack here.
I'll be quick. I'll catch up.
Catch up.
Pegasus, Bell.
There's Prince Eric.
Beast, Camillo.
There's your medallions.
Imperial Bow.
Hercules.
Treasures Untold.
We got Elsa.
Aurora.
And Olaf.
And Pete.
Nice, okay. And it looks like I think we might be getting round. Of course, there was a couple minutes of break while we were waiting for the players to have a look at deck lists, a very important part of this day 2. But I think the players might have had enough deck list action, and that means we can get into some playing action. I think that is what we are going to be looking at here, because of course, one of the important things about the top 64, it is open deck lists. Not only are you allowed to know what your opponent is playing, we'll literally give you that deck list and let you have a good old look at it.
But not during the game. You get to look at it before the game, but not during the game, which I think is a nice thing, because otherwise I think the games would be quite slow, especially in untimed rounds. You could really just be analysing, let me look through every card in your discard pile and see exactly what's left. So I think it's nice that it's just available for the game, plenty of time to try and get that memorised.
And there's a little bit of skill there as well, but I think we are ready to be heading down to the table here for our top 4 game right now.
That was good. Disney Lorcana Challenge here in Bologna. This is the first semi-final of the day. The player who wins this, of course, will be getting into the final. That is how this works.
Well, yes, generally the player who wins the semi-final does get into the final. Thank you for that confirmation, Joe.
In case anyone was unaware.
Oh, but this is going to be a very fun game. I'm also going to see, hopefully when we get confirmation of our final semi-finalists, somebody will send us a little bit of a message and we will be able to share that with you, because that is a very important note. We've got Victor here on your Sapphire Steel and Pierre on your Amber Steel, and then of course course, we've got Sapphire Ruby on the other side of the bracket. We're still waiting to hear what their opponent is going to be. But we've got Steel Song. There were 2 of them in the top 4 of Fort Worth, if I remember correctly. They played a mirror match. We had one in the final. Could we see, after really not making much noise, pun intended, are we going to see Steel Song in the final of 2 challenges in a row?
So Victor is the highest seed. Both players on 48 points from day 1 in Swiss, but there's some tiebreakers, and Victor came out victorious on those, so he's the highest seed, slightly, and will be going first. We saw in the last game I cast as well, both players were on that 48-point mark, and they were pretty high up. They were like 7th and 10th seed, so it's going to be that kind of ballpark. So very strong Swiss performances from both players, so no surprise to still see them in the tournament at this stage.
Absolutely. We have gotten down to the 4 best players in the field. I think it's 4. There might still be one of the top 4 games going on, sorry, one of the top 8 games to go to the top 4, and I do actually think we might have had a little bit. I'm going to check here. We might know the other top 4.
Now, Pierre, I saw in the Amber Steel Song deck, has a slightly unorthodox card in the shape of Perdita. It's a 6-cost uninkable legendary, as we see Victor ink a legendary card in Bell and play a Fortisphere. It's a common card. You're inking a legendary, but that's the beauty of Disney Lorcana. Sometimes you need to ink those legendary cards.
Sometimes you absolutely do, and no, unfortunately, the top 4, the last to decide the final top 4 is still going on, but we are going in our top 4 game. Looks like we are inking a
golden harp. It was
a harp, and Cinderella comes down. Pretty classic turn 1 as we draw a Cogsworth over on Victor's side of the board.
Yeah, and a big thing for Victor here is they have access to that Fishbone Quill. One thing that Pierre might try to do, as we see the Baboon remove Cinderella, is they could on turn 2 go for bare necessities. I'm not sure if it's an option, and potentially discard that Fishbone Quill. They do have it, so the Baboon for Victor is removing the Cinderella, stopping her being able to sing bare necessities. But Pierre could still spend that 2 ink for it, targeting the Fishbone Quill. That's exactly what happens.
And you do see the Fishbone Quill. Now, there is another option there. We've got Anna Long Game Zeus, and I believe there's a Fortisphere there as well. But no, going straight for the Fishbone Quill. That had to be the case. Get rid of that. Really slow your opponent down. Get rid of their extra ink. And, you know, when these Sapphire decks get too high on ink, it opens up way too many options for them.
Yeah, and Victor no longer has a ramp tool in hand. Doesn't have Mickey Mouse, no other Fishbone Quills. And we know that Sapphire likes to ramp. Victor with the Mulligan was kind of targeting getting this Fishbone Quill down on turn 3. But that's the power of the bare necessities. Unlike Ursa the Deceiver, it's not just song cards it targets, it's any non-character card, including locations. And in this case, importantly, it includes items like Fishbone Quill as well.
Very nice. We got the Fortisphere down there, and we pass over to Pierre, who's going to ink a Robin Hood and just pass straight back over. Nothing else to be done. No good free cost card. Really not what you were looking for there. You'd like to try and get some characters on the board, but that's what happens when you play too many songs. You don't always get the characters, but Victor inks and passes just straight back.
Yeah, 4 ink on the board for Victor. Without that Fishbone Quill, Pierre's really slowed them down. Rapunzel, not how you usually use her.
Nope.
Of course, this Rapunzel gifted with healing is an alternative art available as a promo card, both on the prize wall as a non-foil, but both players have already secured their Rapunzel playmat and foil card as Victor responds with a Cogsworth.
Yeah, inking the Baboom and then putting down the Cogsworth here. That lovely 5-cost quest for 2 with Ward that gives all of your other characters resist 1. That is a very good card, one that sees a huge amount of play. So if you're playing these Sapphire decks, there's a very good chance you're playing old Cogsworth or Big Ben if you're in France.
So Pierre's singing Let the Storm Rage On and damaging their own Rapunzel because they have a bunch of cards in hand they don't want to ink. They can't target Cogsworth with Ward, but this allows them to find the Ursula Vanessa, which was drawn from the Let the Storm Rage On, and allow them to play the Robin Hood. Otherwise, the Robin Hood was the only inkable card available. 2 Perditas in hand for Pierre, which I would imagine are probably the only 2 in the deck, and a whole new world as an option.
We do see the Tinkerbell coming down, being inked to play another Tinkerbell. That puts a 3rd damage on Rapunzel, and it puts a damage onto that Robin Hood there. This would be a great time to play a Rapunzel gifted with healing.
It sure would. Now, Cogsworth could be challenging the Rapunzel, but instead it's exerted to sing. Grab your swords, which is going to put 2 extra damage counters onto the Robin Hood, as well as removing the Rapunzel. Strength of a Raging Fire, and it looks like it might be a signed copy, is drawn by Pierre. So it's Strength of a Raging Fire, 2 Peditas, and a whole new world. Pedita can bring back a 1 or 2 cost character from the discard pile and play it onto the board. Is there any available? Well, there's
Cinderella from right back in turn 1. And you need to remember, the Let the Storm Rage On, the damage from that onto the Rapunzel is what opened up Victor being able to take it out with a Grab Your Swords. We'll see if that has a big effect as we go later on through the game. But Pedita getting Cinderella feels like a very good win. Fishbone Quill gets inked to play a Lucky Dime, and I am liking this. We could get, no, we're out of ink for the time being, but next turn that can start getting a minimum of 2 lore per turn.
You might be liking the Lucky Dime, but Pierre is certainly not liking the look of that. A big grimace on their face when the Lucky Dime hits the board. If they don't have cards like Benja or Beast Hard-Headed, that Lucky Dime is going to remain on the board for the rest of the game, and those are not usually cards Amber Steel Songs has access to. There's another Pedita in hand, there's the Whole New World, but Let the Storm Rage On has been drawn, which could of course be sung by Cinderella.
It could, and you can get some damage down, but it would have to be onto Tinkerbell, and it would not be enough. Of course, we've got resist on that Tinkerbell now as well from the Cogsworth. Cogsworth's got wards that can't be chosen by effects, so there is quite a lot of protection on the board here right now. Victor might only have a couple of characters, but they're quite beefy, and Pierre, Cinderella's all right, Pedita's all right, the Robin Hood's pretty good. No one's got any lore yet, but it does seem like Victor's set up. I'm preferring it right now.
Yeah, Pierre's hand is a little bit awkward because whenever Pedita quests, it can also put a character from the discard back into play, and the Pedita in hand as well, but there's no other 1 or 2 cost characters available for Pierre to bring back with either Pedita.
That is not ideal. If you've got a bunch in the discard, you can start flooding your board really nicely, but not an option right now. I mean, you can still use your Cinderella for singing. It's nice if she's on the board, but you really don't want to be getting full value, and that's what's not happening. You're playing Pedita, but you're not recovering a character. You played Rapunzel, but you didn't draw any cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Pierre's not getting full value out of his cards in this game, and it's turning into a problem.
That is true, but Victor's also in top deck mode. Finds the Flaversham, though, off the top, and that's
Beautiful.
A huge moment, because suddenly the draw engine is available for Victor, down to 0 cards, but now with the Flaversham on the board, that is going to be very difficult for Pierre to stop Victor drawing cards.
Does have a whole new world if you really want to go for it and get a lot of new cards, but I do think we're at the stage where Pierre would quite like a new hand of cards, frankly.
Well, both players have the whole new world now, so we're in a bit of an interesting spot where whoever goes for the whole new world is maybe putting themselves at a slight disadvantage because you're losing out on lore potentially to do that if you're singing it. The Lucky Dime is going to be the first lore on the board for Victor, and in fact the first lore on the board in this semi-final at all. Nearly 8 minutes in and we've finally got some lore, Ross.
I mean, it was going to happen eventually. It's nice that we finally get some lore. Now my big question is, who, if either player, is going to be playing Whole New World? Of course, both players know the other plays it. Both players do not know the other has it. And we are inking here, a Rise of the Titans. And it seems like a pass.
Yeah, the Whole New World still in hand for Victor. And interestingly, Pierre has that Bare Necessities. So while they might decide to ink it, they could be tempted to make a read that it's maybe like another Lucky Dime or some kind of song. They do ink it though, and Pierre's going to exert it to play the Golden Harp. Now, if this banishes itself at the end of the turn, it could be pulled back by Pedita. So Golden Harp, if you're not singing a song or not playing a song, the turn that it's on the board, it will banish itself into the discard pile.
But Pedita being able to bring it back to a bit of a win. Here we see the Whole New World, and both players there getting a look at, oh, my opponent also had only one card, and it was Whole New World.
And Pierre, another grimace when they see that the one card was a whole new world. They were probably hoping for something like a Tamatoa or something along these lines. Finds another Bare Necessities, which is an interesting option, and it is going to be sung. After a whole new world, I always really like Ross being able to play either Bare Necessities or Ursula Deceiver. Just seeing what's in your opponent's hand, getting all that information is really crucial.
It is, but all you hit there was a single Porpsicle. And look, we like Porpsicle. It's a one-cost item. Draws a card when you play it. Can be banished with Hiram Flavisham to draw cards. But it's really not what you were looking for there. You were looking for something a little bit more impactful.
Yeah, and the other thing for Pierre is, as the whole new worlds go through, if they can manage to discard any 1 or 2 cost characters via a whole new world, then suddenly these Peditas, every time they are questing, is going to be able to bring a character from the discard into play. And that could get dangerous very, very quickly.
Yeah, it really could. We see some questing here with Perdita. No, we're singing with Perdita. We're singing out along came Zeus to get rid of the Tinkerbell.
Now, just to make clear, on the board for Victor, there is a Flavisham and a Cogsworth. The rest of the cards on the board are actually Victor's hand, which was seen by Bare Necessities. They could pick it up if they want to, but Victor's just, he's not really feeling like it right now.
That would be a great board. Like, if that was an actual board, that would be amazing. Unlikely, but would be amazing.
It would be pretty good. In comes Mr. Smee, only going to cost 2, but it can quest for 2. And speaking of questing for 2, it's the Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain. And this is the power, Ross, of that Bare Necessities, because Pierre could have discarded Grab Your Sword there if it was in Victor's hand, but Victor could draw it. It's Rise of the Titans, but Flavisham, 2 more cards for Victor to find the Grab Your Swords. Can they do it? I think they did it, Ross. I think it's Baboom, and is it a Grab Your Swords?
I think it might be a whole new world. No, it's a Fortis Sphere.
Doesn't look like it's happened. I'm sure someone caught that.
I'm not. I didn't see it in his hand personally. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. I saw Fortis Sphere. I saw a Baboom. I mean, I definitely want to Baboom the Piglet, if nothing else.
Even the Fortis Sphere is going to provide another card draw opportunity. So you could go for the Fortis Sphere, then maybe draw another card, and that could be the card that Victor is looking for. Let's see what they go for. It is going to be the Fortis Sphere. Probably looking for that Grab Your Swords. It's a Tinkerbell, which is certainly not the worst idea at a moment like this where there's lots of characters on your opponent's side of the board. But is Tinkerbell going to be enough? Because Pierre is questing for an incredible amount, Ross, with the Robin Hood, the Golden Heart, the Piglet, the Smee, the double Perdita. They all quest for 2, and there's a Cinderella just tucked at the top of the screen, which I do believe is still on the board. 12
is the total we're going to be questing for next turn. Assuming all those characters remain on the board, I believe Pierre is questing for 12 next turn.
Just 12 in a single turn. Not bad, eh?
I mean, to be fair, Ella in the interview earlier told me they got 33 lore in one turn with Tamatoa so far, so I'm going to be honest with you.
There's the Tinkerbell. It removes the Robin Hood with the help of Cogsworth. 1 damage onto everything, but everything else on Pierre's board remains. Robin Hood banished, but no card drawn, Ross. It's only when Robin Hood is banished in a challenge that Pierre would draw a card.
Yes, correct. So lots of damage on the board, but there's still so much questing power. We do see the Baboom coming down and getting rid of the Piglet. So that's at least 1. But we've still got 2 from the... Remind me what's on the left-hand side there. Oh, the Golden Harp. Yeah. We've still got 2 for the Golden Harp, 2 from the Smee, 2 from each of the Perdita, and 1 from the Cinderella. That's still 9 lore. That is not too shabby. NTS.
Pierre as well now has got that Cinderella back in the camera shot. The board was so wide that it was easy to almost forget about Cinderella being there for a moment. Of course, if they have Cinderella stout-hearted, that could be a really interesting shift option as well. Now, this Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain got banished by Victor, but guess what, Ross? When Perdita quests, that Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain can be coming back down onto the board. Interestingly, the Smee could challenge Cogsworth as well, banishing the Smee, and then it could be pulled back by another Perdita. So Pierre's got some really interesting options here. They're going to sing Let the Storm Rage On with Cinderella. damage their own Perdita. I think I see where this is going.
I think I see where this is going as well. I think we might be seeing a Rapunzel gifted with healing.
There it is.
Now that is full value. You are then getting 3 extra cards from the Rapunzel here. That is exactly what we're looking at. There's another signed card in the deck there as well.
Whole new world. Amazing.
Very nice indeed. Lorcana does allow you to play with signed cards, and that makes me very happy.
Agreed. I was playing with some as well in the show match.
I mentioned it.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
How many uninkables are you playing again?
So Smee, definitely considering that option to challenge the Cogsworth, banishing the Smee, bringing it back with Perdita. I do believe the only 1-cost character in the discard is the Piglet, and the Smee is now joining Piglet into the discard pile, but I don't think that's going to be for very long at all.
No, your quest with both the Perdita bring both of those characters right back, and Pierre is navigating this wonderfully. Early in the game, Pierre was not getting the proper value from their cards, but now they are, and crucially, their opponents only got 3 lore, and that's the key.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have a slow start, if you're not using all your resources as efficiently as you want to, as long as your opponent doesn't have a ridiculous start. And right now, that has not happened.
Pierre still with 3 ink remaining. He's going to spend all 3 of that ink on an aerial spectacular singer. They're going to look at the top 4 cards of their deck. And if any of them are songs, they can go into the hand, but none of them are. And look at Victor. Victor loves it. Victor's very happy about that.
We've seen a lot of whiffs off aerial on stream today. People are not having the best of luck. But look at Pierre's board. Cinderella, Perdita, your Golden Harp, your Ariel, your Rapunzel. Looks like we've just inked a Lawrence as well. So we could be seeing another character. Here we see questing with, well, both the Perdita and the Golden Harp. That is 6 extra lore. And we're also going to be bringing back 2 characters, which is going to be Mr. Smee and Piglet.
It's Mr. Smee, the bumbling mate, and the captain supporting them in Piglet as well. It's just glorious to see.
Yeah, and of course, Mr. Smee takes a damage if exerted at the end of your turn, but that is not the case if you've got a captain down, and Piglet is very much a captain. So it looks like we're back over to Victor here. We are questing, I believe, with Hiram Flavisham, getting rid of that Fortisphere, drawing a couple of cards. Is it what they need, though?
Tinkerbell still ready and waiting. Of course, can challenge a character and then deal 2 damage elsewhere. So that's going to be a really nice control option for Victor to just slow down the questing potential of Pierre. The problem is they got rid of that Piglet the last turn, but with a simple quest from Perdita, it came right back. We're really seeing the power of Perdita from Pierre here.
And that's the thing. When you've got Perdita down, your opponent can't just take out your Piglet and be like, yay, job done. Yep. You've got to take out the Piglet and the Perdita, or else the Piglet's just going to come straight back. And it makes it really frustrating. And at this point, I think Pierre is in a really commanding position because his deck is now set up. Those 2 Perdita are recovering characters. And Victor, you know, if this was a Ruby deck, a Ruby Sapphire deck, well then, you know, player be prepared, get rid of all of those characters, and then you can feel really good about making that comeback. But Sapphire Steel does not have those kind of cards like Be Prepared. Clearing this board is going to be a Herculean task, and if you don't clear the board quickly, you are not going to win the game.
And Pierre is threatening around 14 or 15 lore here in a single turn. 15 lore in a single turn.
Only needs 12.
Victor really needs to remove as many characters from Pierre's side of the board as possible.
Yeah, we've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Might just be, oh, plus the 2 extra from the Piglets. Yeah, it is 15 here. So you need to take away, I mean, absolute minimum 4 lore worth of questing from Pierre. And that's just to only put Pierre on 19 lore next turn.
Yeah, and that is definitely doable for Victor with that Tinkerbell being able to challenge into the Golden Harp and then the 2 damage onto the Piglet, which is exactly what happens. But that means there's 2 more characters for Pierre in the discard, which Perdita can bring back. But
well, one Perdita goes down from and along came Zeus.
Yeah. It wasn't sung, but doesn't matter. Still getting rid of Perdita, but for Pierre, it's another big turn of questing, and Victor is still 16 lore away, although that lucky dime is still on the board for Victor.
It is still on the board, but Pierre can go from 8 all the way up to 16 this turn just by questing of everything if they so wish, and then could even, but instead we do want to use Cinderella for singing, dealing 1 damage to Cinderella. Remember, Cogsworth is lowering that down. Pay a bit more ink here. Looks like we might be playing a character of some description.
Looks like Ariel's being hovered here by Pierre. They're really leaning towards that. Having some second thoughts, though, potentially. Of course, Ariel as a singer 5 is a really nice option to have down on the board to sing those powerful Steel songs. It's a big reason we see Amber and Steel pairing so well together because of this Ariel card.
Yeah, Steel have the good songs. Well, so do Amber, to be fair. But Amber have the good singer. Steel have the good songs. Whack them together, and you have this Steel song deck of which so many people are fond. Now, we've quested up to 14 with Pierre here, so we need to try and preserve 6 lore worth of questing. So we're just going to try and get more characters. Of course, Perdita's going to recover 1. Is it going to be Harp, or is it going to be Piglet? Going for the Harp here. Piglet would get 1 more lore.
Yeah. Piglet 1 more lore, but that 2 extra willpower on Golden Harp means that it's not going to be removed by a Grab Your Swords. And in comes the Smee and the Robin Hood. This is what Amber Steel songs can do so well, utilizing the whole new world card draw and then just developing a really wide board with big questing power.
Yeah, and if you're Victor, you need to try and end the game quickly. We're eyeing up a Tamatoa with a lucky dime already on the board, but that's the only item on the board. So you wouldn't get enough. Now, if Victor had 6 items on the board, then we can talk. But unfortunately, I think 6 is the minimum you would need to win the game this term. And I'm not sure, and Victor is looking, and it does look like Victor is conceding the first game. Pierre is too far ahead with too good of a board, and we are heading to game 2.
And there was a big reaction from the crowd here, watching the games along with us live here in Bologna. Big shout out to all of those people, as well as the people watching from home, enjoying the very best of Disney Lorcana action.
We showed Pierre's top 8 game, and there was a big cheer and chanting when Pierre made their way into top 4. We saw a big cheer there when Pierre won the first game. Pierre, clearly a very popular player in the room. Can they win 1 more here and get themselves towards that final? They've already got their invitation to the European Championships. They've got all of the promo cards, including the Mickey. What they don't have yet is a title of champion, or a binder with every foil card, including all the enchanted from Ursula's Return.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I wouldn't mind one of those, that's for sure. So, very interesting to see Pierre's different take on the Amber Steel song deck. Many of the staple cards we expect to see, Ariel, Whole New World, Cinderella, but the Perditas, the Golden Harps, doing really very well. And the Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain really almost becoming close to a staple card in this Amber Steel song deck. We saw Frank Carsten win with it in Lille. Pierre looking to do the same thing.
Absolutely, and it's awkward because you watch these games and you're like, but Piglet never works.
Yeah.
You never actually get to quest with Piglet. The thing is, if you do, free lore on a 2-cost character is absurd. And secondly, you don't get to quest because your opponent sees it and goes, I have got to get rid of that right now. And they start using resources to go after the Piglet, which means they're not using their resources to do other stuff, and you're basically forcing your opponent to play the game that you want them to play, and that's a bit of a win.
I think a really big moment in that game was that turn 2 bare necessities discarding the Fishbone Quill. So maybe Pierre here with the opening mulligan might try to learn from that and maybe even try and get 2 Fishbone Quills in their opening hand. Maybe a Fishbone Quill and a Mickey Mouse. We saw the Fishbone Quill getting discarded and then Victor having no more ramp to fall back on.
Which is not what you wanted. You ended up without getting that ramp, which means that this Sapphire Steel deck does not work as intended. Of course, this was my pick for the weekend, Sapphire Steel. It's a favorite deck of a lot of players in the room, so Baker was telling me. But right now, it is in trouble of going out in this top 4 match.
Yeah, Victor did have a Mickey Mouse in their opening hand, possibly even 2 Mickey Mouse, or Mickey Mice. And looks like there is still a Fishbone Quill and a Mickey. So this time if Pierre is to go for that same bare necessities play, Victor will at least have that Mickey Mouse to fall back on.
which is always a bonus. Mickey Mouse, your free cost uninkable that ramps up when you play it. Get an extra ink into the inkwell there, which is a bit of a win.
Yep, Victor going to shuffle the deck, of course, after the mulligan. Pierre is ready and waiting, presenting their deck to Victor to give a little cut, maybe a little shuffle, to make sure that everything's all okay with both players. There's our lovely table with some very big dice. I need some big dice as well. Big die, I suppose, is the correct phrase.
No, one big die, two big dice.
Oh.
One die, two dice.
I was so close.
You were right the first time.
I was. And also you can see the first chapter Mickey Mouse deck box there. I think that belongs to Pierre. A pretty nice deck box to have indeed. Yeah. I've got the Captain Hook one with me.
I've got the Mickey Mouse one with me.
Oh, look at that.
It's beautiful. I love it. Gifted by Ravensburger, I should say, which was very kind of them to do so. So here we go into game 2, and it looks like Victor is going first. We play the Fishbone Quill into the inkwell, and then the Fortisphere comes down onto the board, drawing a card, and we pass over to Pierre, who's there's 3 Tinkerbell and an Ariel in hand here.
Yeah, they all cost 6. With the Fishbone Quill, you can get those 6 cost characters down on turn 4. With Mickey Mouse, it's not going to be until turn 5 that you can get those 6 cost characters down. So Victor's going to be hoping to draw into some characters they can play soon. Robin Hood for Pierre. Victor does have a Baboon, which can remove the 1 cost characters. Pierre's going to be looking to try and maybe sing A Whole New World nice and early. But that is denied by this Baboon coming through as Bell goes into the inkwell.
Yeah, absolutely does. Fishbone Quill got inked, but hopefully next turn we can still have a Mickey. We've got at least 2 Strength of a Raging Fire in Pierre's hand. We've got a Lawrence, we've got a Rapunzel gifted with healing. So we've got a few options here. A lot of inkable cards. Question is, where do we want to go? Do we have a good 2 cost?
It's the Mr. Smee, the Moosh, I believe it is.
Well, he's been inked, so was there a second Mr. Smee?
I'm not sure. I think there is, right at the front of the hand.
Yeah.
There's also an Ursula Vanessa as an option. So Ursula Vanessa, not going to be questing for as much as Mr. Smee, but is able to sing 4 cost songs and 3 cost songs as well. So able to sing Strength, Storm Rage On, as well as And Then Along Came Zeus.
Which is not too shabby at all. Back over to Victor, and we see inking one of those Tinkerbell. There were multiple in hand, and here is the predicted Mickey. Just a reminder that Mickey Mouse inks the top card of your deck. It is done blind. You don't even get to see which card you put in your inkwell, which does actually mean you then start losing that tiny bit of knowledge of what is available for you for the rest of the game.
Very true indeed. It's going to be back on over to Pierre. Mickey Mouse on the side of the board for Victor with a Fortisphere. Pierre with that Ursula Vanessa. Baboom in the discard for Victor, and that Robin Hood in the discard for Pierre.
Yeah, we see another Mr. Smee going into the inkwell. That's 2 now. And Lawrence comes out, a card that a few weeks ago was seeing very little play, but is now coming out a lot in these Steel Song decks. When it's undamaged, it's a free cost inkable 4/4 that quests for 2, and that is a very nice stat line indeed.
Yeah, so if Pierre went for the Smee on turn 2, they'd have 1 law more at this stage. But look at the hand for Victor. Those Tinkerbells and the Ariel are still not able to come down. Remember, if this was Fishbone Quill on turn 3, Victor could have gotten to 6 this turn, but instead is going to ink a Tink and then pass play on to Pierre.
And it must be quite frustrating because game 1, you're relying on the Fishbone Quill, it gets hit with a Bare Necessities. Game 2, you're like, I'm not falling for that again, I'm going to put it in the inkwell, and no Bare Necessities comes down. You could have had it.
And speaking of frustrating, the Ariel has missed again. Ross, do you remember what Victor inked on turn 1 this game?
Mr. Smee.
It was Fishbone Quill, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, sorry. So Pierre inked Mr. Smee.
Yes.
Yes, Victor inked Fishbone Quill. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Inked it, and then no Bare Necessities came down.
Absolutely.
So you've had the worst of both worlds. The turn you keep it, it goes away. The turn you give it away, you could have kept it.
Yeah, so even though Bare Necessities wasn't available for Pierre, Victor was so worried about it, and I do believe that the discard target in hand was going to be that Fishbone. Victor ends up inking it to make sure that that Bare Necessities is getting no value, but then ends up having to skip a whole turn where the Fishbone Quill would have allowed them to have a whole Tinkerbell on the board by now, which would be such a different board state.
It's all about decisions. Made that decision going, tried to use it game one. It didn't work out. I'm not falling for that again. And unfortunately, it would have worked this game, but it's one of those things you're never to know. You know your opponent's playing it. You know that they can search it with aerial and sing it early. It's annoying, but it's one of those things as Tinkerbell comes down and puts 1 damage on each opposing character.
Yeah, and that's particularly important in the case of Lawrence because of the card text reading. If this character has any damage, if it has no damage, it gets +4 strength. So that +4 strength has been removed, and it is now just a 0/4 character. Witch Quest for 2. In comes, and then along came Zeus. Tinkerbell removed, and the crowd loved that one, Ross.
And Pierre is doing exactly what they managed to do in game one. What have you seen?
Zeus was sung by Ursula Vanessa with that Singer 4. Pierre had that option, I believe. Did they sing it or did they just play it? Because now play's passed on over to Victor, and I don't think Pierre played anything there.
I think it's the same result in the end, except one more lore because you quested with Vanessa, and Pierre is eyeing this up. I am hearing that in the other match that Ile is 1 up against Ruben.
Okay. Very, very fascinating. So Pierre is still only at 3 ink. Didn't ink the last turn. The hand, there's an Ursula Vanessa, there's a Rapunzel. So they could have inked Rapunzel, Pierre, in the previous turn, but decided not to. And this has now allowed them to Rapunzel this turn to add an extra card into their hand. But Victor is really in the ascendancy in terms of ink available. Pierre at just 4. Victor's at 8, I believe.
Not too bad.
7 ink for Victor right now.
Just confirming that was the other top 4 games. So both top 4 games, we've had one concluded. That means we should be in the final before too long. Although I have to sit down for the final, so it's a little bit sad. But then I get to watch you and Baker tell me all about the final. But first, we have to decide which of these players is going to be in the final. Right now, it really looks like Pierre has got the inside track here. Up 1 game to 0 and really doing a good job with the ball. But that aerial is questing for 5 right now by virtue of having more items in play.
Yeah.
So I would love to see a lucky dime coming down here so that you could do it twice.
Yeah, and the Rapunzel healed the Lawrence. A whole new world sung by Ariel. And the Lawrence now is back down with no damage counter, so it's back up to that 4 strength, 4 willpower stat line.
Not too bad. Rapunzel healing is good for drawing cards, but it is also good for actually healing sometimes. Yeah. And that can give a big advantage to Mickey for potentially ramping Don. Tamatoa has come out here. No lucky dime yet, but there is a Hiram for Lavasham for draw if you want it, and a beast as well, and a baboom.
Yeah, Victor with no access to anything like Grab Your Swords either, which can be a really nice card in a spot like this to try and clear multiple threats at once. Pierre is at 9 lore, Victor still on 0. So Pierre 11 lore away, currently can quest for 6 if Victor doesn't remove any of their characters.
So here we see a lot of ink being used, and we are playing Hiram for Lavasham, getting rid of that Fortithia, going and getting a couple of extra cards here.
And the draws were another Porpsicle and a Mr. Smee.
I don't mind just playing a bunch more items at this point, getting ready. We know there's a Tamatoa in hand. We know that Hiram for Lavasham is working as a draw engine. So I'm honestly not opposed here to just playing as many items as you can, as fast as you can.
Yeah, the Porpsicle going to also be drawing a card. That Flavasham is going to be able to quest next time, and Victor might also want to just try and develop some more singers, but only 3 ink available right now. It does look like it's going to be the Porpsicle, so 1 more card draw available. There's the Tamatoa.
I think he already had one in hand, didn't he?
I think you might be right. I think it's the second Tamatoa in hand.
2 Tamatoa in hand confirmed now.
The boom is looking like the option for Victor for 2 ink. Probably going to be targeting that aerial to deny that 1 lore, but Victor might also decide to sink 2 damage in elsewhere, maybe into Lawrence, and then if they draw that Grab Your Swords, both Ariel and Lawrence would be cleared.
Yeah, they absolutely would. Of course, we have already seen 2 Rapunzel gifted with healing going down. Sometimes damaging your opponent's characters when you're worried about a Rapunzel can backfire as they get maximum value and draw a bunch of cards. But with your opponent having already benched 2 of them, you know they can play more, but you know it's much less likely at this point.
It is still Victor's turn. They still have 2 ink available, I believe. They did exert that 2 ink for the baboon, but it hasn't yet actually been played. But there it goes through, and it is going to be aerial decided. I think they were considering their options there to go for the Lawrence as mentioned, and then hope to draw a grab your swords, but this does deny the aerial Singer 5 ability for the next turn, or just Pierre simply questing for 1, because at this moment in time, every law matters. But look at that, Ross. Perdita was the star of the show in game 1, and Perdita is back for Pierre. But somehow Pierre's only at 4 ink, so Perdita's still at least a turn away.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We need to pop an ink down, and then we need to get another ink next turn, and then Perdita can come in. Great card, but it is a 6 cost on inkable. But now we have the bare necessities of life. They will come to you, but what will come to Pierre here as we have a look at the hand? And it seems like Fishbone Quill is the only option. After that, we got Mr. Smee, couple of Mickey, couple of Tamatoa.
Yep, so again, that is the hand for Victor. The only cards on the board for Victor are the Flaversham and the Aerial. Victor just presenting all the cards in their hand for Pierre to see. And it's really interesting that Pierre only has 4 ink, but spent half of that on a simple bare necessities. But if Victor had something like a grab your swords in hand, Pierre would have absolutely wanted to remove that as quickly as possible. It looks like Robin Hood or Robin Dubois is going to go into the ink. I'm not sure if the pronunciation of the French there was spot on, but we'll take it. Okay, Ariel's missed a few times already today. Surely not again, Pierre. It's a whole new world, which he's not too happy about.
Plus whole new world. If you know your opponent's holding whole new world, that does give you a lot more information. It means that if there's a card you really want, you know to play it down nice and early. One important thing for Victor, has 2 Tamatoa in hand.
Yeah.
So a whole new world, getting rid of both of those Tamatoa could hurt in the end game. Victor's on no law whatsoever right now. You need some big swings at the end. Now you've got Aerial down on the board, admittedly, but I want to get a Tamatoa down at some point, and I'm worried if Whole New World gets rid of too many of them.
I think Pierre's going to be wanting to remove this Aerial with that 5 questing power. So Aerial removed. Lawrence now with those damage counters is now going to be a 0-4. 0 strength, that is, and 4 willpower. Of course, just going to take 2 damage from Victor to remove. Victor almost forgot to pick up the hand there, but they have now remembered.
Always a bonus when you remember to pick up your hand, the cards you're playing. Was that a Fishbone Quill top deck?
It was Fishbone off the top. There's 2 Porpsicles on the board, so a couple of tasty snacks for Flaversham. Victor has got a law on the board. 19 more to go, Victor.
Yeah, Pierre unfortunately only needs 8 more, so it's going to be a little bit of a rush at this point to try and make sure we can get there. We know we can get big swings with these Sapphire decks, but we need to actually start working towards them now. We need to get Lucky Diamond, Tamatoa, or another Aerial, or Bell we've seen in this deck already. Something along those lines where you can just quest for 5 or more at least twice. You need to be trying to build a 10-law return, because Pierre has got a bunch of characters down, and right now questing for 5 next turn?
Yeah, there's a lot of law potential there. Yeah, Rapunzel and Lawrence both questing for 2, the Vanessa and the Aerial for 1, so 6 law quest potential.
And 6 will get you from 12 to 18, but there's nothing like the Super Goof or Goat or anything in Pierre's deck that will get that 2 out of nowhere, is there?
Not that I'm aware of. We did see one of the players in Fort Worth playing with the blue cards, but I'm pretty sure Pierre's not on the Super on the blue. Blue's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, Blue's good. Blue gets you, it's a bodyguard that when banished gets you 2 law. The problem is you got to play it down and then got to wait for it to be banished. Great in the early to mid game, but in the late game when you want that last 2 law right now, your opponent can potentially ignore Blue, and that can be a bit of a pain. We did see a really
cool play in Fort Worth, Ross, where the player quested with their Blue and then spent 4 ink to Zeus their own Blue to win the game. That was quite spectacular.
I love that. I saw that play. It's always fun when you can pull that off, because of course the vast majority of cards just let you target any character, as long as they don't have ward, of course, and that will include your own as well. So it's not always the way you want to go. The way you do want to go, though, that is Tamatoa. And again, you know your opponent's holding a whole new world. You don't want to lose all of your Tamatoa too quickly.
Oh, okay. Now, Victor almost forgot to pick up the Porpsicle from the Tamatoa, but then inks the beast, plays the Porpsicle, draws a card. That is the power of Tamatoa. Not only is it a big body on the board, but it's also recycling your Porpsicles, and Porpsicles draw your cards. So Tamatoa, if you spend 9 on it, it's often going to draw you 1 card as well. 1 for the Porpsicle, 8 for Tamatoa.
Yeah, absolutely. Get the 8 to play the Tamatoa, the 1 to play the Porpsicle after you recover it with Tamatoa, but get an extra card, and now Tamatoa is questing for free. Minimum.
Now Pierre is going to ink a Robin Hood, which is going to finally put them up to 6 ink. I can't believe they're in such a strong position, despite taking a whole turn off from inking way back when they were at 3 ink. They could have inked that Rapunzel, but they decided to just ink nothing, stay at 3, and then find a worse inkable card to put into the inkwell and use Rapunzel for some card draw.
And it's working. Right now, it is working for Pierre, up 12 lore to 1. Nice board of characters. Going to get a bunch more lore this turn. And at this stage, Victor needs that gigantic Sapphire swing at the end of the game. That seems to be about the only thing that's going to save him now. But he does have Tamatoa down. If we could see, it's a lot to ask, but Lucky Dime and a couple other items could get you quite close. As it is, Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain comes down, and this is what I was talking about. You are now...
Oh my goodness, the strength of a Raging Fire, dealing 6 damage to Hiram Flavisham. What a play.
Deals 1 damage for each of your characters in play, and with a really wide board, that means 6. And is Victor even going to be able to get rid of Pooh Pirate Captain right now? Right now, Pierre has got so much lore on the board.
Big card off the top. Is it the Grab Your Swords? I think it is. I've thought this before, though, and I've been wrong. Victor needs the Grab Your Swords right now to clear this Piglet from the board. But even then, the Lawrence would get removed, but the Rapunzel, the Ursula Vanessas, and the Ariel will remain. It looks like it was a Fortisphere, not a Grab Your Swords.
Oh, and right now, if we look at the board, we've got 3, 4, 5, like at least 10 lore there from Pierre, and we only need 3. We need a board wipe from Victor. We need, like you say, a Grab Your Swords. If we were playing Ruby, we would go Be Prepared, but we're not prepared for that. We're not playing Ruby, and it really is starting to look like Victor might be out of luck in the top 4 of the Disney Lorcana Challenge. Already 1 game down, staring down a 17-1 lore deficit with an opponent who has got a very impressive board, and I've seen this face before, Joe.
Yeah.
This is the, I'm pretty sure I've lost. Let me think through everything before I concede.
And I want to go back to the very first play from Victor after the mulligan, which was to put the first card into the inkwell. It was the Fishbone Quill into the inkwell, and it just ended up meaning they skipped turn 4. Pierre's been able to get this big board presence down on the board, and Victor just hasn't quite been able to ever claw back that board control.
We just drew 2 from Hiram Flavisham.
And the Grab Your Swords is now there, Ross.
Definitely there. You're 100% sure?
I am very sure this time, for once.
So Grab Your Swords will get rid of a lot of cards. Will it get rid of enough cards? It'll get rid of the Piglet. It'll get rid of the Lawrence. Will it get rid of the Ariel?
The Ariel will remain on the board with just that 1 damage necessary more to remove it.
And the Rapunzel will stay, and the Lawrence will stay. So that's 5 lore potential on the board. Sorry, 4 lore potential on the board, which you only need 3.
It's very possible the Grab Your Swords is not enough. Those 4 willpower on the Ursula Vanessas, the 5 on the Rapunzel, the 3 on the Ariel means Grab Your Swords on its own is not going to be enough. You're going to need something like a Grab Your Swords. Well, maybe 2 Grab Your Swords. That would probably be enough.
Double Grab Your Swords. Now, that would do it, Joe. That would absolutely be enough here. Deal 2 to everything, and then deal another 2 to everything. Completely wipe the board and go from there. That would be an option, but, well, I mean, it would be an option if Victor had the cards. Does Victor have the cards?
Victor just making sure they're taking all the time that they need to make sure that there's nothing else they can do. Of course, once you play a card, you can't take it back. So it's absolutely worth using all the time. Victor's going to play 1 ink to play a Fortisphere and draws into a whole new world.
Okay, the whole new world is interesting. If you're able to sing it, you can draw a bunch more cards. But here's the problem. You need to be working towards the end game.
Yeah.
When your opponent's on 17 law and you're on 1, just buying a couple of turns isn't going to be enough. Now, here comes Grab Your Swords, and that's going to do a bunch of damage. Going to get rid of Lawrence, going to get rid of Pooh Piglet Captain. Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, there we go. But there's still enough lore on Pierre's side of the board, and even if you get like another Grab Your Swords, right, and you get rid of all of these characters, you're still not that close. And there we go. Pierre is going to be in the final of the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna. That 2-0 victory with Amber Steel Song, as we tend to call it. Too many characters, too many options.
Amber Steel Songs made the finals in Fort Worth, to many people's surprise, just a few weeks ago. And here over in Europe, in Bologna, Italy, it's done the same. Pierre with a really, really strong 2-0 performance.
Yeah, very nice performance there. I'm just looking to see if we've had an update on the other games so far. We are still looking at Eli 1 up against Ruben. So, I mean, that does... And that is, remember, the interesting Ruby Sapphire deck.
Yes.
And I don't think many people came into this challenge going, well, I think the final is going to be Ruby Sapphire against Steel Song. That's my prediction.
No, that would be really quite amazing to see. I mean, historically, Amber Steel Songs has had a pretty tricky matchup into Ruby Sapphire, but this is not the standard kind of Ruby Sapphire deck that we're used to seeing. It's got items, it's not got necessarily as much control. It's got the Queen and Maurice's workshop, but it's not necessarily going to be Ruby Sapphire in the finals. I think, is Ruben the opponent? Are they on Amethyst Ruby?
Oh,
We'll find out soon.
We'll find out soon. For now, we're going to have a quick look at the Amber Steel Songs deck. And this is the one we just saw in action, doing a big old win. Low-cost singers with powerful songs, quick shift options, refilling your hand after playing many low-cost characters. And we saw there, you don't play as many characters as a lot of decks because you're playing a lot of songs.
Yeah.
But when it works beautifully, as we just saw, you use those songs to control your opponent's board, so they have a harder time taking your characters out. So even though you're playing fewer of them, you can have more of them staying on the board, and that Perdita tech, better in game 1 than game 2, but still fantastic. Lots of fun things going on in that last game.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different ways you can build these Amber Steel Songs decks, and it's really fascinating to see how they adapt. And really, it's a deck which can just adapt to the rest of the field. Earlier on in the meta, when Ruby Sapphire was more popular, we saw Pride Lands and Sleepy's Flutes. I don't think there was a single flute played in that last one at all, so it doesn't look like Sleepy's Flute is an option there.
No, Sleepy's Flute was absolutely not what we saw coming out in that. But then again, when we saw the mirror match, then that was, again, the same player back in top 8. The Sleepy's Flute didn't do very much in the mirror match. There was 3 of them down, or 2 of them down on the board. And they got a couple of lore here and there, but I'm concerned about the fact that maybe playing that then meant that you were playing fewer other cards, which actually made your mirror match a little bit worse, because the Sleepy's Flute wasn't doing enough, and it wasn't, you were spending free lore to put them down, and it wasn't hurting your opponent's board or establishing your own board. It was free lore for a nice little bonus, which didn't come through well enough there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to see how these decks adapt for Shimmering Skies as well. Amber Steel Songs definitely getting some interesting support with cards like Prince Naveen, Legendary. I can see that I do believe we're going to be having an interview quite shortly, which I'm quite excited to hear from our winner as well.
Well, we're not going to have a winner from our interview, Joe.
Okay.
Oh, did you not hear the briefing?
I didn't hear the briefing.
We had a whole briefing about this, Joe.
Okay.
No, we're going to do something a lot more fun. What we're going to do, rather than having an interview interview with our winner. We're going to have an interview with both of our winners. I'm going to go and interview in a little bit both of our finalists in advance of the final. We're going to bring 3 chairs out. We're going to have me, we're going to have both our finalists, and we're going to be asking them about the final. And to that end, I can tell you that Eli has won 2-0 against Ruben. So we do have our final set. It is going to be Sapphire Ruby against the Amber Steel.
And it's not just Ruby Sapphire, it's Ruby Sapphire with the Queen, with Maurice's Workshop, with the Shield, the Ruby Shield, all sorts of cards you don't see every day. And I'm so excited to see this final.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the final as well. And it turns out our co-caster Baker, villain by name, villain by nature, has usurped my interview of our 2 finalists. But I know he is going to do a phenomenal job with it. And I think we're actually ready to go now and hear from both our finalists and Baker.
Maybe not just yet.
Oh, no, and Baker's literally walking past us, so... A little bit too early for the interview, but we will get to the interview very quickly.
Any opportunity for me to open a pack.
Let's get rid of my embarrassment with that poorly timed throw by opening a pack. That'll make me feel better.
We've got some Shimmering Skies. Oh, Ross.
Oh, this is my slide, this is. Okay, so before the event happens, the production crew go, right, what do you want to see? What slide should we make? And I said, I want to talk about Taffeta Mutton Fudge. Now, there's actually 3 characters of this character in the set, and what we've got is a 1-cost Inkable, which takes a lore away from your opponent, a 2-cost Inkable that quests for 2, and a 4-cost Inkable with shift 2, bearing in mind we've got a 1-cost to shift onto, that then once per turn, when you move to a location, you gain 2 lore. Why do I love that so much? The 1-cost location Sugar Rush Speedway that you can move to for free. And the thing I love about this, it's kind of like a better version of Super Goof, although it is a bit combo-y. You play down Taffeta Mutton Fudge, either shift or play normally, either's fine, and immediately rush over to the Speedway, and you get those 2 lore now. You don't have to play and wait a turn to quest, and I adore this. I think all 3 of the Taffeta Mutton Fudge are really interesting cards. I think the Sugar Rush Speedway is great, and I love the idea of having a good turn 1 option. I love the idea of taking my opponent's lore away. I love the idea of being able to move to a location and grab a lore. Best case scenario, play the 1-cost, they lose 2 lore. Pay another 2, lose 1 lore, sorry. Pay another 2 to shift it up. Drive over to the Speedway, 3 lore swing for 3 ink in 1 turn. Tell me that does not sound like fun, Joe.
It certainly does sound like a lot of fun. I also think a few of these Ruby cards are available in the Ruby Amethyst starter deck as well. So that's definitely something to look out for Shimmering Skies. There's a Ruby Amethyst starter deck, which is very strong. And there's also an Emerald Steel. And Emerald Steel, Ruby Amethyst, starter decks, those sound like some pretty powerful color combinations.
They do indeed. What else is powerful is our cast of players who have made it all the way here. And we now can confirm our final there with Pierre on that Sapphire Steel and Ely there with your Sapphire Ruby. Not the 2 decks we were expecting in the final. And you'll notice confirmation of the final bracket there, semi-finals onwards. No Ruby Amethyst, no Emerald Steel. The 2 top decks, the 2 most played decks, both absent from not just the finals, but from the top 4 as a whole.
And you know what, Ross? Bucky has been eliminated from the tournament, which means Bucky is not going to be played in its current form in a Disney Lorcana challenge again, because it's getting errated in a week. Toronto is going to be Ursa's return, but it's not going to be with Bucky in its current form. So Bucky can now be said goodbye. Goodbye, Bucky. Bye, Bucky.
Oh, he had a good run, did that little squirrel, and a very good card. In fact, so good, we kind of had to deal with it. So, yeah, Taffeta Mutton Fudge, very, very excited. And look, maybe I'll test it and find out it's rubbish, but looking through Shimmering Skies, that is the #1 like suite of cards I'm excited about right now.
Yeah, I do not blame you. You've been telling me a lot about it, and I'm excited to try
I won't shut up about it.
I've got a pack. I've got Gus. I've got Ice Block, Augustine Madrigal. I got Training Grounds, the Rose Lantern, Triton's Decree, Julieta Madrigal, Mulan, Olaf, Namiri. Last time I did this, I got it. I know what it is. It's a legendary. It's
Ursula.
Ursula, Sea Witch Queen. The second one I've got today, and the foil is going to be Ursula Vanessa.
Hey.
I can play my Ursula Vanessa, shift my Sea Witch Queen on. Job's a good one.
Job is a good one. Right, let's see if I can beat that. I'm not entirely sure, but we do have Pascal, and who doesn't love Pascal? We got Vitalisphere. We saw that in the previous game used to great effect. We got Mickey Mouse. We've got Daisy Duck, but not Friar Duck, a different. We've got the Hercules, which is replacing or at least teaming with Maui in some decks. That's 7 strength, crucial for taking out the Queen's Castle. Your favorite card, Scuttle. We've got Tuk Tuk. Ooh,
nice.
Aerial Sonic Warrior, and a foil Raya. I do love the artwork on that Raya.
Right, I'm not wasting any time, Ross. I've got another one ready to go. I've got Tor the Florist, an amazing card in a sealed format. Sell them all they seem. I've got First Aid, Farzo, Louisa Madrigal. I think she's your favorite Madrigal, right?
Oh, she's got the best song, and she literally juggles donkeys.
Beast Wounded, Miracle Candle. I've got one more card in here before the foil. It's a rare. Mystical Rose, and the foil is a Duna.
Very nice. Okay, I pulled 2 enchanted on stream in Bochum. I've not managed one. Only Baker has so far. Can we fix this? We've got Cogsworth. I want to play more with this Cogsworth. We've got Tong going through what I think is a Bamboo. We've got TikTok. We've got ourselves Aladdin. If you're going to shift into Aladdin, that is your base. Donald Duck with the Bodyguard, who lets your other characters quest for more. Great Stone Dragon. We've got some good meta cards here. Lumiere that buffs your other characters.
Oh, hello.
Ursula Sea Witch Queen. Snap. And Yow.
Yeah, we've both got an Ursula Sea Witch Queen. But I've got the card I was playing in the show match, the star of the show in that one, the Hidden Ink Caster.
Oh, that is the card you like.
The more uninkables that get printed, which of course is going to come with every set, the better this card gets. I think especially in Emerald Sapphire with that Flaversham, it could be really nice. I love a bit of Pegasus, Bell, Thebes, one to keep an eye on. The Mob Song, another great card in Sealed. Medallion Waste is one of the best draft cards around. It is incredible.
Yes.
Flounder. John Silver.
You got a legendary.
It's Mulan.
I know it's Mulan.
Nice.
You could see the bottom bit of the text.
That's what I was trying to do. And Tuk Tuk.
All right, we're going to do one more pack, and then I think we might have a little bit of a look at Ruby Sapphire. Although, remember that the Ruby Sapphire we have in the final, it is not your ordinary everyday Ruby Sapphire. It has a bunch of cards in common, not quite the same. Can we get an enchanted before we chat about that deck? I hope so, frankly. That would make me a very happy bunny. There's your Pico, there's your Aladdin as a shift target. There is Pain, there is Flounder. We've got an Avalanche, Bruno,
nice.
Madrigal, Prince Philip, and Namari. And that is the other card from this set I revealed. I now pulled both of them as foil on the stream
nice.
today.
Let's go.
Makes me happy.
Let's
talk some more.
Really very exciting. Yeah.
Ruby Sapphire.
Yeah, Ruby Sapphire.
Tell me about this deck, Joe.
Ruby Sapphire, very, very control-heavy deck. And look at that. I think we've updated the graphics to see Ice Block and this 3-cost uninkable Sisu as 2 of the really important cards in the build that Eli's playing. You can use the Ice Block on 1. On turn 3, then the Sisu can come through, and it can remove a Diablo. And it's got Evasive, which can make it quite difficult to deal with. It can shift on the legendary Sisu. It's a very item-heavy build using cards like Scuttle, the Queen, and Marisa's Workshop. to rely on its card draw, not really using maybe things like Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, which we're used to seeing. A really fascinating build, which we absolutely loved watching earlier on.
Oh, it was so much fun watching the Queen go and get all of those items. And, you know, when I spoke to Ely after the game, they told me, well, you didn't actually see the best turn 4 play.
Yes.
The best turn 4 play is we play the Queen, and then we use the Queen on turn 4, play Shield of Virtue, ready the Queen, get 2 items from that Queen on turn 4. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, that does actually sound like a really good turn 4 option.
Especially if you hit the Fishbone Quill as well, because the Fishbone Quill can then start ramping you up more. If you hit a Porpsicle, the Queen is essentially drawing you a card. Now, the items off the Queen do come in exerted, so you're not going to be able to use them the turn that you find them, but the turn later, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, it is really, really good. I wanted to see that Queen in a good deck, and, well, we've got our wish. Has made it all the way to the final, and whatever happens, we're going to have a slightly surprising winner here. Amber Steel, less surprising, because, of course, made the final in Fort Worth, so, of course, that makes sense, but still not the... I mean, who was really picking that? Actually, I think that one of the Italian casters
pick Ruby Sapphire?
I think one of... No, I think
one of them picked Amber Steel.
I think one of the Italian casters picked Amber Steel. I did pick Sapphire Ruby...
in Bochum.
In Bochum, so I can kind of...
No, you can't.
No,
you
I
can't.
I can't. And to be fair, the deck I was thinking of when I picked that is not the deck that actually is made the final here. Tell us what you think about the final. Use all of the usual channels, Facebook, Instagram, and X with /Disney Lorcana.
Yeah, what deck do you think is going to win the final? Ruby Sapphire or Amber Steel? Let us know on the social media channels below.
And this, I'll be honest with you, this final we're going into, it's not exactly a matchup I've thought about very much in this form. How do you see it rolling? Have you got a bit of an inkling here?
I think it's going to be a real uphill battle for Amber Steel. Historically, Amber Steel can struggle against Ruby Sapphire, especially without cards like the Flutes. Having said that, this is a very, very different build of Ruby Sapphire. Maybe cards like the Queen could be removed quite easily. You play the Ursula Vanessa on turn 2, exert it on turn 3 to sing, and then along came Zeus to remove the Queen.
Yes.
And maybe that's going to really, really disrupt the game plan, even singing Bare Necessities to discard the Fishbone Quill. So there's a lot of really interesting options that Amber Steel has. A big problem often is, as a Amber Steel player, is if you sing a whole new world, you're giving the Ruby Sapphire so many good cards, but with this heavy item build, maybe that's not the case.
No, maybe not. It is going to be interesting to see. I think we should play some Guess the Flavor Text.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. I think we should
would
guess
be
some
very down for
text.
that. Guess the flavor text. That sounds like, okay. This time, nothing. Not even Basil can stand in my way. Not even Basil. Okay, sounds like a baddie. Sounds like a villain. That's my first prediction. Basil standing in the way, the Great Mouse Detective.
Correct.
Okay.
So are we? So who was the baddie in the Great Mouse Detective?
Well, I know that Hiram Flavisham, the toy maker, was the toy maker in the Great Mouse Detective.
So I'm what? Well, that's what.
Oh, Ratigan. Am I right? Ratigan is the baddie in the Great Mouse Detective.
I mean, it makes sense because, you know, Rat's a bad guy in the mouse film. Look, I told you guys I was going to watch The Great Mouse Detective.
I think it's. I'm pretty sure Ratigan is.
I think Ratigan
is
might
the baddie.
Be
so.
But here's the thing. I was going to watch it, but I want to watch it with my kids. I want to see what they think. And we almost watched it, and then we just watched Moana for the 74th time instead. But I'm working on it. I'm working on getting that film.
So Ratigan does have a couple of different cards currently in the game. We're getting a new one out in set 5. There is an evasive one in Emerald, I believe. I think it costs 4, and it's like a 4/1 that quests for 2. And there is also a Ratigan in Ruby, which is a 5-cost uninkable. So you going Ruby or Emerald? Which Ratigan do you think it's going to be?
I'll go Ruby, but I think Ratigan is enough, frankly.
No, you got to name the card properly. I'm going for the Emerald Ratigan with evasive.
Okay, name the card properly.
It's a Ratigan Emerald Evasive. That's the official name, apparently.
Well, that is the official name. Okay, we'll check with Tim later. Just double check on that one. I think Ratigan, here on Flavisham it could be, but I feel like Basil doesn't really get in his way. I feel like they're mates.
Yeah, I think so too. There's also a really interesting new Basil card coming in set 1. It's a 2/1, 1-cost character in Sapphire. But what's great about it is it has support. And that is one of the, I think it's the first one-cost character in the game with 2 strength and support. We've seen Hey as a 1-2 with support, but of course the more strength you have, the better that support ability is going to be. So definitely a card to look out for, that Basil in Sapphire for Shimmering Skies. I'm ready to see what it is, Ross. I'm really, really keen. Do you think it's Ratigan, Ruby Ratigan, Emerald Ratigan? You got it right, Ross.
Ruby Ratigan, that's 1-0. And if you'd have just let us say Ratigan, that would have been a tie.
Yeah.
Instead you lost. How do you feel?
Well, I will say, I did say Ratigan before you.
You did say Ratigan before me. I was kind of letting you go. It was obviously the Great Mouse Detective, so the baddie from the Great Mouse Detective. I mean, this was one of the easier ones we've had.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
And I also presented you with the Ruby Ratigan as well, but you can take it. You can take it.
I am, frankly.
I could have done with the win after I got super goofed on stream earlier, but you deny me from that as well. I understand.
All right, do we have another one ready to go? We have another
flavor text, perhaps. I mean, if not, you don't need to tell me twice. I can always open a pack.
We never rob. We just sort of borrow a bit from those who can afford it.
Okay. Instant feeling is it's something to do with Robin Hood.
Yeah, it's got to be Robin Hood.
So, could be Robin Hood themselves. Of course, some of the other characters, there's a Friar Tuck, but I believe the Friar Tuck card text is get out of my church, out, out, out. In fact, look what I have in my pocket, Ross. An Italian Friar Tuck, which I was given to by somebody outside. Just pretty cool.
That's kind of awesome. I think you'll find the flavor text is Fiore dalla mia chiesa. Fiore, fiore, fiore.
That's impressive. That's very good.
You're probably terribly wrong, though.
That was pretty good. So there's a few different Robin Hood cards. Which one do you reckon? There's Robin Hood Daydream and Emerald. There's the 1 cost. There's the 5 cost.
I could see it being Little John. Ooh. I could see it being Robin Hood, I could see it being Little John. Now, this is a film I've watched many times in the past few months with my kids. Oh, I kind of want to say Little John, but it feels like Robin Hood is so obvious.
Yeah, I think Robin Hood 1 cost from Steel is my shout. Maybe it could even be the 2 cost Robin Hood that's uninkable.
It's definitely not the 6 cost inkable. It's definitely not that one.
I would agree. All right. I'm ready to find out.
We're ready to find out.
What you're locking in. I'm going to lock in the 2 cost uninkable. Oh, it's the 6 cost inkable in Sapphire. One that you can often forget about, but the Disney Lorcana dev team really like this. Steve Warner's a big fan of this card, and Tim used it against me yesterday as well.
He did. It was one of the original D23 promos, but less about that, more about our finalists. Let's run over to Baker and hear from both our finalists in front of what I think is going to be a rather lovely final.
Hello and welcome back to Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna, Italy. And I am joined by both of our finalists for this Disney Lorcana Challenge. We have Ellie and we have Pierre. Gentlemen, congratulations on making it this far, first off. Yeah, this is quite interesting. It's kind of like the showdown before you go into the finals. You're in the finals, you've come a long way, 9 rounds of Swiss, you made it into day 2, and now you've gone through multiple best of 3s to get all the way here. Now, we already spoke to you a little bit, Pierre, but for the sake of people that might have just been joining the stream, let's just start again and act like it's your first interview. So I want to ask you both, first of all, where you're from and what got you into Lorcana. What's the story?
Yeah. So I used to play TCG when I was young, and I came back to Lorcana because my girlfriend loved Disney, so it was a good occasion. And I live next to Paris. Yes. Like I said, the Olympic Stadium for swimming is like my town. And so that's all. And my family is in Normandy, so it's like something to give the mic to Ellie.
Yeah, no, there's a familiarity already. And yourself?
Yeah, I was playing some TCG, probably mainly online before, and I like the gameplay of Lorcana more than other ones. Right. So I dig into it, and now I'm here.
Perfect. And you both started right from the very beginning in the first chapter? Yep. Yes, awesome. So what is it that you find unique about Lorcana? What is it that keeps you playing after all this time?
What is unique is it's a simple game. You have a few little text on the card, but it's really complicated to know what to do exactly and play well. So that's everybody can play simply, but it's really hard to perform well. So that's what I like. I hate those TCG with many texts, and Lorcana it's simple.
Yeah, the simplicity. And how about yourself? What keeps you playing Lorcana after all this time?
Yeah, like you said, like it's easy to play, hard to master, and there is so much integration between some cards like my deck, obviously, and it's the most fun.
Awesome. So you've both kind of done what a lot of people think couldn't be done, and that's bring Ruby Sapphire and Steel Song into the finals. Now, these are two very powerful decks, but in the recent Disney Lorcana challenges, they've not been performing overly well. Obviously, Steel Song won in Lille in the previous format, but really the meta's been dominated by Ruby Amethyst and Emerald Steel. So I think the people at home are going to be thrilled to be watching this particular matchup, something that we don't see all the time. Yourself, we'll start with you. You're running Steel Song. You are not running the Sleepy's Flutes, correct? Can you just give us a brief synopsis of your deck, what you think it does well, some of the unique things that you've done with it?
So I play the list with, I would say, big bodies. So you have Ursula, Harps, Perdita, so it's really low rounds, so it's really strong bodies. And against steel decks, it's really hard. Like maybe if you watch the semifinals, it's really hard for a steel deck to clear the board. So you repair full body, you can draw with Rapunzel. So yeah, really, and you can always recover just with all one you wall and sing for free. So yeah, it's the classic Steel Song, but with stronger body. A lot of cards we get too low, so it's really strong.
Yeah, the Cinderella Stout-Hearted that you're running in particular is particularly hard for a lot of decks to deal with, and in your previous feature match, that looked like a really key piece in taking that victory. And the Golden Harp's obviously also doing very well for you, so that's something for Steel Song fans. Maybe take a look at this list and maybe consider running it slightly differently. But I would say perhaps even a more unique list from my friend on the left here. You're playing Ruby Sapphire, and you are running the Queen. Please talk to me about your deck. What led to some of these choices?
Yeah, I think the Queen is actually the best blue card in the game.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. yeah, it is, because she's the only one to cheat Morris Workshop on turn 4, and Morris Workshop is the best card draw engine in the game.
Wow, what a statement!
I already played Morris' Workshop in Chapter 2 with Pabi's deck. That's why my deck's called Papabi, which means not Pabi. And I played OTK Pabi in Chapter 2, and this list is exactly the same, but more powerful, because Queen and Scuttle enable the gameplay even more.
Amazing. I did have the pleasure of, while I was on my break, I did a little scout around when you were playing against the Ruby Amethyst player, and I think it was 11 items I saw on the board at one point. Absolutely wild. And just so people at home know, that might be thinking, oh, why are you telling each other the decks? We are in open deck lists. Both of these gentlemen will be able to look through their opponent's entire list and know all the unique counts. I'm so thrilled that you've both made it this far with like different versions of decks that, from what we would normally see from players. It's going to be an incredible final. Last question, is there anyone that you would like to thank, any shout outs that you'd like to give to anyone in the Lorcana community?
Like before my teaming class, which would come together since we have to play offline now, and so they really helped me for this.
Yeah, and you said that you think you might actually miss your flight tonight, but because you've made it this far, so it's worth it. So we've got you for one more night, which is fantastic. And yourself, anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
I would like to say my partner, which is which bring me luck to me today, and all my team, obviously, meta makers, will make a new meta.
Absolutely love it, and you heard it here first. Maurice's Workshop is the best card drawer in the game, and the Queen may well be the best Sapphire card in the game. Gentlemen, I'm really excited to watch your game. Can I ask for a just pre-match handshake just as we go in? And there we have it. Can't wait to watch it. We'll be back very, very soon.